Hello Internet, my name is Lave and I watched Mother, which is written and directed by Darren Aronofsky, whose other films I tend to enjoy. I liked Requiem for a Dream and The Wrestler, which I think is his more accessible movie. I'm not sure if that translates to being his most successful movie, but I like those films. And I do like his other films, which are, let's just say, more out there. I thought Noah was okay, it had its moments. Black Swan, I think, is his most critically and financially successful film. I like that. My personal favourite of his is actually The Fountain. I think that's an underrated film. His latest stars Jennifer Lawrence and Javier Bardem as a married couple living in a secluded but idyllic house. Bardem is a famous poet struggling with writer's block, and Lawrence is a stay-at-home wife fixing up their house. One day, a mysterious man in the shape of Ed Harris turns up and he stays even though he's uninvited. He's followed closely by his wife, Michelle Pfeiffer, and a whole host of other people keep turning up and staying, and let's just say it all goes bat crazy. So you could take this film at face value and look at it as a home invasion, surreal, psychological horror movie, a very good one I might add, but this being Darren Aronofsky, there is more at play here. There is a larger analogy which he has confirmed in interviews, but part of the fun of the film is sort of figuring it out for yourself, so I can't really go into that without giving away spoilers, so I'm going to make this an analysis video at the end of the video. So when I start talking about that, I will clearly let you know. If you've seen it, you can skip to this time frame. If you haven't seen it, you can stay with me for now, but just know I will be talking spoilers in the second half of this video. I can talk about some of the technical aspects of this film, which all takes place within one setting. Apart from maybe a couple of exterior shots, all of this takes place within their home. Furthermore, it's all seen from the perspective of Jennifer Lawrence's character, and the cinematographer Matthew Libatique has completely stepped up to the plate. He's created a really atmospheric movie with natural looking lighting. It really captures the sense of being homely and unhomely at the same time. I also find it really interesting that the colour palette seems to change as this film progresses. It starts off in the first act with some earthy greens, blues and yellows, but then as the film progresses, the colour literally drains away. Aside from maybe one colour, which is blood red, and this being a horror film, that's not so surprising, but I'll talk about that more in the analysis side of the video. But on top of that, the sound design is really effective. They've taken a minimalist approach to it. I think in this case, less is definitely more. It's the silences that really got to me. You put all this together, it's a really creepy, eerie cinema experience. On top of that, the A-list cast all do a fantastic job. Jennifer Lawrence does literally all of the heavy lifting. I thought she did a really good job, but it's not like I couldn't have imagined anyone else in that role. For the most part, I think she's really good, as well as Javier Bardem, and it's really nice to see Ed Harris and Michelle Pfeiffer. They're really good. They're scene stealers. Every scene they're in, they're great. There's even a few unexpected cameos. Domnhall Gleeson turns up at one point. He's in the trailer, so I don't feel guilty about spoiling that, but there's another quite significant character as well where you're like, oh my god, that's Thingy. It is a bit weird, but I think overall it's been cast really well. The whole cast do a fantastic job. I will talk about them a bit more in the spoiler analysis side of the video, but for now, to wrap things up, I enjoyed this film, but then I like Aronofsky's other films. If you didn't like Darren Aronofsky's other films, then you probably aren't gonna like this. It is completely batshit crazy, but it is an interesting cinema experience. It definitely feels like an amalgamation of all of the ideas that he had while he was making all of his other films. If you put all of those ideas into one pot, then Mother is what you get. So that's my thoughts on Mother, and pause the video if you want to take a closer look at my enjoyment tracker now. Okay, so now I'm going to move into spoiler territory. So if you haven't seen the film, then I recommend stopping this video, go and see it, then come back and let me know what you thought about it and what does it all mean. Before I start, I think it's really important to clarify that Darren Aronofsky considers film and his style, he's an abstract, surreal filmmaker. He's confirmed in a couple of interviews where he considers films like dreamscapes.
Surrealism as a technique is something very lost. Like, films have become very literal, and yet they are the great pathways into dream state, because it's very similar to a waking dream watching a movie.
With that in mind, all art is subjective and open to interpretation. If you like something, that's great. If you didn't like something, that's fine too. With that said, I did go into this film with certain expectations. I'd heard through the grapevine that this was being compared to Rosemary's Baby, Roman Polanski's film. I didn't know if it was a homage to it or if it was a spiritual sequel to that, but it did get me really excited. I really like that film. On a side note, I have actually reviewed Rosemary's Baby and the rest of the Apartment trilogy on my uni blog, which is still up and live. I'll put links in the description if you want to go and read them. Feel free. Anyway, going back to Mother, I went into this expecting Javier Bardem's character to be some sort of representation of the devil. This promotional poster sort of confirmed it to me. It looks like he's in hell surrounded by fire. But now that I've seen the film and I've had a chance to ingest it and process it, it's pretty clear that Javier Bardem's character is a representation of God. Going back to the poster, we know that God spoke to Moses through burning bushes. So yes, I think it is pretty clear that he is God. The moment where it all sort of clicked for me was quite early in the film when Ed Harris and Michelle Pfeiffer's characters go up into his loft, into his private study. Jennifer Lawrence is like, you can't go in there. So I started thinking, okay, is that heaven? And they look at the jewel or the diamond, which Javier Bardem draws inspiration from, and they drop it and break it, which was a clear representation to me of Adam and Eve eating the apple or the forbidden fruit. And then as the film progresses, we see their descendants turn up to the house in the shape of their sons, played by Domhnall Gleeson and his real life brother. And like Cain and Abel, the older brother kills the younger brother through jealousy. Again, Bible reference. After that happens, even more people turn up to the house and Javier Bardem throws a wake for their dead son, and Jennifer Lawrence is going out of her mind at this point. People start repainting her house. They're sitting on her kitchen sink, which she keeps saying isn't braced, and then it breaks, causing a flood. Bit like Noah. So I think there is a lot of evidence to support the fact that Javier Bardem is God, and this is all just one big biblical reference. But what does that make Jennifer Lawrence's character? Well, again, I think that is quite clear. I think she represents nature or Mother Nature. I want to draw your attention to one scene where Jennifer Lawrence is talking to Michelle Pfeiffer's character. They're talking about babies and stuff, but I'll come back to that in a minute. There is one line where Michelle Pfeiffer says,
"This is all just setting."
Now, the setting she's referring to is their home, and that's representing Earth. God created Mother Nature, and she's shaping Earth. She's decorating it, painting it into a perfect place to live, a real paradise.
We spend all our time here. I want to make a paradise.
But of course, this is all jeopardised when man shows up. I think it's important to note that Ed Harris's character keeps smoking in their house, and she's saying, we don't smoke in this house. He's literally polluting their house. I thought it was a really nice touch that she hides his lighter at one point, the lighter representing technology, the pinnacle of human technology to some people. So yeah, I think the environmental message, again, is pretty clear. It even ends with Jennifer Lawrence's character going down into their basement, which could represent hell, where she blows up their oil-fired boiler, completely destroying the place, burning it to the ground. Again, this is sort of representing where we are now in humanity.
Naomi Klein just sent me a direct message today saying how ironic it is that this film is coming out as Irma is making contact with the United States. And she just wrote this incredible article about how British Columbia is experiencing the worst forest fires in the history of since people have been on this continent.
But before all of that happens, Jennifer Lawrence's character and Javier Bardem have a baby boy, which is the Christ representation. Again, people come swarming to their house to see this baby and worship this baby from this renowned poet or the creator. And that's when it goes completely mental. They try to get the baby, which they do. They snap its neck and kill it, and then they literally devour it. At one point, they beat and rape Mother Nature. It goes completely mental, representing all of the wars that we've had. It's insane. So I think there is plenty of evidence to support this. When I was putting this together, I came across a TV spot, which I'll put on the screen right now, which does seem to confirm all of this. Again, it's all open to interpretation, and I think you can go even further. If you keep digging, you can find other metaphors and analogies for anything. What was really interesting when I was waiting to watch this film, I was flicking through Twitter and I came across this tweet where someone said that Darren Aronofsky was a misogynist and a sexist. So I was really thinking about that in this film, and if anything, I think this film does have an element of commentating on feminism. Yeah, I'm not sure on that. I think there's also a small reference to drugs as well. So Jennifer Lawrence's character throughout this film is taking a powdered substance in her drink whenever she has one of her fits and her visions of the heart crumbling and dying. The first scene where she's mixing that drug in a drink parallels a scene earlier in the film when she's mixing paint and she's decorating the house. So if the house is earth and she's sculpting and creating earth, then that is a substance of the earth. And I know there's this whole debate between Christians and their interpretation of the Bible and marijuana and legalizing it. I'm really clutching at straws. It's a really dense movie full of metaphors, and part of the fun of it for me is trying to decipher all of that. It's something that I probably will buy on Blu-ray when it comes out. I'd be really interested to hear Darren Aronofsky's commentary on it. But what did you guys think? What does it all mean to you? It's completely batshit crazy. I completely admit that. I understand why some people might find it completely pretentious. I understand that, but some people might think it's a real work of art. But there is something that we can all agree on. It is a bit nutty. So thanks very much for watching my review of Mother. I really do appreciate it. Please, if you've seen it, let me know what your thoughts are. Tell me down in the comments. And once again, thanks very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you can, give this video a like. And don't forget to share the Lave. Subscribe